It has been a wonderful, enlightening discussion since morning, and my co-panelists have also given a different insight with respect to social implications of CRZ, which are universal, as mentioned by Dr. Upadhyay, and a totally different angle with respect to what are the practical problems with respect to the definition as well as the current regulation of CRZ, as mentioned by my colleague Dr. Chaubey from NIO, and of course Dr. Gitanjali, who spoke about the issues of fishermen community in particular. I have one advantage that I have slides, and I'll be able to regulate my presentation with respect to that, and that will also help me in completing my presentation within the time limit. I have been a student of botany, and I did my PhD. I started my work about 30 years before today on mangrove ecology. And I had an opportunity to travel on motorcycle all the coastal states, which encompassed at that time about 125,000 kilometers. And that gave me an opportunity to understand the dependency of the coastal communities, various formations of mangroves, and also the island states of Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep, which was a totally different experience with respect to the utilization of the natural resources by the communities which are residing there. A stint of 5 years after that with Dr. M.S. Swaminathan helped me set up a mangrove program, and that led to a lot of national level issues and also the global issues which we started working upon. 5 year stint with the Ministry of Environment and Forests as a member of the National Mangrove Committee also helped me in broadening my insight about this unique ecosystem, and contribute in defining certain policies for the government of India and also see them implemented effectively. Those days the development issues were very much there, the intricacies of which were not visualized probably. And today, 20 years after we have CRZ in place, we are facing a lot of problems. Because as CRZ regulation evolved, we were not in a position to evolve our strategies for development as well as conservation of the natural resources. And that is creating a lot of issues because the stakeholders at various levels are not in a position to have a clarity with respect to utilization of the resource, conservation of the resource, and also achieve development. We talk about economic growth of a nation which is judged by GDP, but whether this GDP is really helping us in looking at equitable sharing of the resource at the ground level. Even the utilization, the conversion of certain coastal areas for developmental purposes, we tend to forget that the same areas which are converted for the want of creating more space for the people who do not have habitation or space to create homes, and they probably over and above the law convert these areas into habitation. Are we able to do something about it? And when it comes to development, we try to convert the same areas for developmental purpose. We have all kinds of rules and regulation which become hindrance to that kind of development. And therefore we'll have to look into this issue in a more holistic manner and also in a more scientific manner. We are talking about a natural resource which largely defines mangrove ecosystems or mangroves as plants. And they are, as compared to the global resource, we are talking about the global documentation of total biological resources, and they are not more than 1.7 million or 17,40,330. And we are all responsible for defining them, identifying them. When we talk about total plant species on this planet, 3,21,212, and we have only 97 species of mangroves and their associates, which are defining the entire coastal regulation zone. Is it really justified? We'll have to ask this question to ourselves. Why I'm asking this question? Only because we are talking about the global distribution of these resources. The tropical belt of our planet, 25 degrees north and south, we have 77% of the total natural resources, biological resources. But this is the same region where we have 77% of the world's poor. And the entire region where all the nations are located, they are largely called developing countries. Now we have mangroves again only in this region. Above this tropical belt, that is 25 or 30 degrees north and south latitudes, we have temperate zone. Now they are also coastal regions, but the temperate region have got salt marshes. They are not predominantly tree species. So there the coastal regulation zone again is confined to very few species which are in the intertidal region, in the coastal areas. But when we talk about mangroves here in the tropical belt, it is also a region, if you draw a line, an imaginary line of 60 kilometers from the coastal areas, 67% of the world's population is residing here. Now, when we have so much of population pressure on the coastal areas, how can we preserve our natural resources by applying any rule and regulation? Of course, it is very welcome thing that every nation has to have their own regulation for monitoring, conservation and development. But when it comes to the coastal areas, these are the major limitations we are facing. We are talking about the mega cities. There was a mentioned here in the morning. 31 mega cities are located in the coastal belt all over the world. India has got 3 out of 4 mega cities. What is the situation of Mumbai, or what is the situation of India? 80 kilometers from the coast, we have 33% of our population. So how are we going to really look at these issues where the resources are governed by the pressure of population? You take one of the mega cities of Mumbai, 22 million people staying in 604 square kilometer, out of which 104 square kilometer is a national park. So more than 45,000 people per square kilometer. And in a region like Dharavi, which is just 75 square kilometer of area, you have 5.5 million people, 85,000 people per square kilometer. How do we protect our resources? And in the same area, we want to have development also. We do not, and we cannot legally and by the rules of our nation, we are not in a position to control the flow of population, which we should not anyway, because it's a natural process. So how do we protect? How do we apply the CRZ rule in same location or in different locations in the same manner? When you have a highly populated region like Mumbai, we want development, whereas you have a coastal region where the coastal population is residing dependent on mangroves, and we have to apply the same rule there. So we will have to look at these issues very, very critically. I am just going to highlight 10 issues. I had highlighted them in the NEERI conference in Mumbai, but I am substantiating that with the help of photographs and some of the experiences so that they can be more organized, put into policies probably, or the recommendations to the government, and we will have to look at this very critically. I am a person who has been working on mangroves for almost 30 years. How many people who define the policies, who are in the committees, for example, Maharashtra Coastal Regulation Zone Authority, or who are the people in River Basin Management Authority, who are the people who are talking about revival of some of the rivers which have become extinct, like Mithi River in Mumbai. It has become a nala. There is no freshwater flow, which actually should be originating from Powai region of Mumbai. But it is no more that situation. So how do we look at these issues? Just 10 points and corresponding slides, and I will complete my presentation. The 1991 vis-a-vis 2011 CRZ notification, there is a change in approach in defining high tide line, as all of us know. Population pressure in urban environment, issues of habitation, livelihoods, and also disposal of sewage. Pre and post 1991 developmental issues like policy implications with respect to defining new cities like Sidco or Navi Mumbai, Thane Belapur railway line, Bandra Kurla complex, Bombay sewage disposal project, and also Navi Mumbai International Airport. These are all just highlights I am trying to show. Role of mangroves in defining CRZ. What is its importance with respect to ecological role, economic role, and social implications? Changing policy decisions with regard to district-wise development in the coastal regions. Every state has got a plan for each district, in which way that district should be developed. Whether that plan, once defined, can be changed just because a politician who gets elected from that particular constituency changes the party, and the policy of the party becomes his own policy. So whether that kind of uniformity can we achieve, as mentioned by Dr. Upadhyay, whether you can have a uniform policy for certain critical issues. Bringing eligible lands under large-scale mangrove plantations. I'm talking about those areas which have potential to have mangroves. And we have been doing that exercise for the last at least 20 years. When I was working with Swaminathan Foundation, we developed a concept of coastal mangrove management, or forest joint mangrove management, as parallel to joint forest management, where we are encouraging communities to utilize the mangroves, go for plantation areas, earn livelihoods, and there is a mutual kind of benefit. So we'll have to look at these efforts we have taken as a policy of the nation. Now, once those areas are brought under mangroves for want of providing ecological security, they become CRZ. And we are not worried about it because they are outside the developmental, so-called developmental regime. Seventh point is lack of coordination with respect to conflicting priorities among the government departments. We have examples in Maharashtra. We have two different departments. Environment is separate, forest department is separate. We have the boards like Kharland Development Board, whose priority is to have a bund which will stop the flow of high tide line, and anything before that bund, which may be mangrove, you reclaim it and encourage the local communities to go for rice cultivation. 55,000 hectares of land was created by Kharland Development Board along the 720-kilometer belt of Maharashtra, which was a legally acceptable exercise. Now those bunds are not maintained, water gets into it, and we have crossed the year 1991, suddenly it becomes CRZ1. People who are growing agriculture because of the government's policy, now they have to stop it because some mangrove seedlings have come up. So this is again a major problem. Anticipating changes in coastal geography and resource base with regard to livelihood security in the advent of climate change impact, that you will have to see very critically, because a 1 degree Celsius change at the time of pollination in a crop like wheat can affect the entire physiological process, and the crop which has to mature on the 115th day, which will mature on the 105th day, which means the grain size which has to attain a particular size and weight, since the crop is matured 10 days before its actual maturity period, 28 to 30% of reduction in the productivity levels is observed. So these are some of the very minute issues which we are not even able to understand. How do we really relate that change in climate, change in the sea level? How will we be able to relate that with respect to the anticipation of these calamities? So whether we can start in a anticipatory research. We did that in Chennai. We have been able to come out with identification of candidate genes from mangroves, which we transformed or transferred into development of transgenic rice, which can be grown in the salinity or seawater. So these kinds of efforts are also very important, and there are challenging situations. Role of voluntary organizations in conservation and developmental issues in coastal areas. Policy issues with respect to lack of adequate knowledge base, as I mentioned, within the regulating bodies of the government, where the experts who are appointed for the understanding of that subject probably have a meager understanding, and these appointments are probably political, and we are those who are genuinely approaching the authority, they are disappointed. The change in CRZ, I'll just give less than half a minute for each of these 10 points. And this is a change that has taken place between 2001 and 1991 and 2011. The blue line is the original line of high tide, which was defined as per the CRZ 1991. Suddenly you have CRZ 2011 and you have a 5% salinity as the criteria. The entire CRZ line in the Navi Mumbai region has been shifted inside. The land which is going to be lost is 1340 hectares. It looks very small acreage, but the cost of that is 55,000 crores. The Navi Mumbai or the SIDCO, which was formed with the intention of generating revenue from selling the land and developing these many other developmental things, they are constrained by this particular issue. And how do we look at it? Mr. Chairman in the morning function, the Principal Secretary of Forests, Mr. Rajiv, was talking about giving permission to save 500 crores of MMRDA. Now, as a chairman of the CZMP, can he not do this? He has no answer, I'm sure. And this is a very pertinent question, and it is absolutely unbiased question, a scientific question. It's your own regulatory body, no? And it's your own government organization. Then where is the question of industry, which you are against all the time? It's your own body, which your own policies. Tomorrow you become a MD of SIDCO by virtue of some appointment. You will again try to defend this? Then you will forget you were the chairman of MCZMA. I am not pointing at a particular person, but these are all issues which you'll have to look at. SIDCO was created to save thousands of crores of rupees. In 1971, a coastal city was envisaged by the policymakers and politicians of this nation, and they felt, to save the money, let us go for the Dutch method of reclamation, so that you don't reclaim in such a way that you are above the high tide line. In 1971, it was insignificant. There was no CRZ. But to save the national money, they wanted to go for a Dutch method where the reclamation is done just below high tide line here, so that this much portion is left, and there is a bund created technically and with the help of civil engineering principles that will all the time prevent the coastal water coming into that area. But those bunds are broken, and suddenly CIDCO is in a soup because 1991 has happened. They themselves go to the High Court saying that there are 79 locations where, because of the government policies in other developmental areas like laying of railway tracks from Belapur to Thane, the entire topography of the Navi Mumbai region is changed. Water has started entering in the half-completed developmental projects. So they themselves approach MMR, Government of India, and also High Court. High Court sets up a committee with a mandate. You go and see those 79 sites. Mangroves are there or not? Yes or no? That is the mandate. I was a member of that committee. The report has to be negative because yes, the answer is yes. Now, based on that report, certain NGOs go to the court by filing a PIL and blackmail CIDCO for crores of rupees. You give us a project to develop mangrove park, we will not talk about your problem. These are the issues which we'll have to look at very, very critically. Navi Mumbai International Airport. I was responsible along with IIT, but exclusively for mangrove protection and its utility. That report has helped the state government to get the clearance of, getting the approval for the project. The approval, it was provision made in the CRZ itself that Greenfield Airport is cleared. Then there was an issue, the government changes, the portfolio of civil aviation goes to the party which is not in the majority in the ruling party, and then the ruling party feels the credit will go to that party. You start opposing it. And then a person like me who is a professor defends the project based on my 30 years of experience, because 90% of mangroves in Mumbai are Avicennia marina. And this area where 165 hectares of mangroves are going to be cleared, they are Avicennia marina. There is nothing significant loss with respect to the ecological role that mangroves are playing. And therefore I defend it with scientific basis. Ministry feels that I am getting money from state government to talk about defending this project. So these are also major issues. And I have been the member of the National Mangrove Committee for 5 years, from 1992 to 1997, where I know what is important for my nation with respect to conservation of our coastal areas, because I have served the government also. Then you have defining CRZ. As Dr. Vijay Kulkarni mentioned, there are mangroves, the actual ecological role of mangroves, which are actually facing the sea front, the tidal water which is coming in, the rivers which are bringing in a lot of sediments, and with that force they are meeting the sea. Mangroves are arresting that sediments. And it is basically the ecological role it is playing to create more and more land towards the sea. But as you go upstream, that role is minimized. And in some cases it is insignificant. You take the example of Mumbai Char Bungalow depot. Behind that there is a huge patch of mangroves. If you apply the same rule, within 500 meters you'll have to demolish all the buildings. But the builder who doesn't want to develop that area for want of official clearance, he is in a soup because he is not able to develop anything. So the ecological role of mangroves, which is actually for coastal protection, we are applying the same principle for the inland mangrove, though the species are same. And we are not in a position to have any development. So this is very important aspect. I have been pleading this even when the Prime Minister's office had invited a delegation of the bureaucrats of Maharashtra. I had accompanied them on 15th of November. We spoke about them, and they are considering it because they will have to redefine the laws. They will have to redefine the concepts, which will really help true development and also true conservation. We are talking about changing policy decisions with regard to the district-wise development in the coastal regions. 6 coastal districts or 5 coastal districts: Mumbai, Thane, Raigad, Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg. Raigad district is predominantly a industry-based district which was defined by the state government. Sindhudurg district, a tourism district. And now we are talking, because the political leadership is changed in that district, we are talking about development to the tune of having a power project, which I am not against. I believe in development, but with the people-centered, people-approved development. And now you are changing the philosophy of the state. You want to have all the projects along the coast. Why not in the western Maharashtra? Why not in other parts? Last 4 slides. Challenges to CRZ issues. As I said, based on the efforts of Forest Department in involving coastal communities to bring in and bring almost 42,000 of hectares of land along the coastal stretches of eastern coast of India under mangroves to create a bioshield which helped protection of livelihoods, preserving the properties as well as saving the lives during tsunami. Now there is no other development, but when this development has taken place for developing 42,000 hectares of mangroves, then if there is a project planned in future there, are we going to change our policy for engaging communities to have
Excuse
livelihoods?
me, can we rush through the...
Yes, last 2 minutes. Lack of coordination with respect to conflicting priorities among government departments. I mentioned about Kharland Development Board, and you can see on either side there is a water there. It was stopped, and on the left hand side of the slide there was a rice field. But now because of the non-maintenance of the bunds, even the other areas have been engraced with mangroves. Anticipating changes, we will have to go for anticipatory research. I will not touch this, I have already spoken about it. And then you have role of voluntary organizations. I also mentioned about it. Navi Mumbai is protecting 48% of its geographical area under green cover. But when there is a proposal or plan for a development of an international airport already planned 40 years back, you are talking about opposing the project. This is a kind of problem. The bunds which were developed and maintained, if they are broken by the local people to have capture fishery and the entire water gets into it, it becomes suddenly CRZ. And then it calls for attraction to the NGOs to file a case. The indigenous knowledge, policy issues, lack of adequate knowledge at the policy level. So this was the last point I wanted to make. So in nutshell, we will have to really look at these issues more scientifically and ensure that the political will is really generated, because in this country or anywhere in the world, you cannot achieve conservation without political will. So if there is a right kind of mindset, you have power sector, you have environment sector, you have natural resources conservation sector as a common policy for all the political parties, and let all the political parties say that we will have this common policy for an election, and whoever comes to power, that policy will be implemented. I can guarantee no political party will agree to this because they want to come into power. Thank you so much.